in this lesson we'll create the legs for the couch. So if we take a look at this couch, you can see that I just added a seam along this frame, much like we did with the cushions. In fact, exactly like we did with the cushions, using the exact same technique. So just be aware of that. But now we need to go ahead and add some legs. So there are a bunch of different ways here in Max that we can do that, but let's look at something that we haven't touched on yet, and that is the lathe modifier. So to use the lathe modifier, we need to draw a profile. You can think of this as if you've done a revolve, maybe in another software package, it's very similar to that. So what we want to do is go to Create, Shapes, Splines, and let's just create a line, and we'll draw out the profile of what we want our leg to look like. So you can feel free to make whatever shape that you want. I'm going to just go in here and start to make kind of a leg shape here. And now keep in mind that if you click and drag when creating splines, you're going to create kind of a softer edge. If you just click, you'll create kind of a harder edge. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. I'll go ahead and click on that, and let's go ahead and just pull this over partially. Alright, so let's say that this is the profile that I want to use. I can always go in after drawing this out and move any of these points around that I want to. Let's say that I think that's good. So we now need to create geometry from this. So I'm going to select the line, and in the modifier list I'm going to add a lathe modifier. Now it doesn't look like it's done much. It's created geometry, but not really what we want. So we want to go into the lathe and select the axis, and I'm just going to move this over in the X. Okay, so right now it was centered on that shape, which is on the opposite side that we want. We want it to be over here. So I'll just pull this across, and you can see how that now creates the shape that I want. You can change the different directions that you have there. Okay, so it all depends on these parameters here, which you can change around. And you also have to move the axis as well. Okay, so now that we have this, what if we want to change the shape of this? Well, we can do it very easily by going to the line, but we now don't see our actual lathe. Well, to see that, you want to turn on the Show in Result. Okay, and now we'll go into our sub-object, and you can see that we can access the vertices. And now if we move these, you can see that that lathe is now modified. So I'll go ahead and shrink this down a bit, make this a bit smaller, and maybe we can take the whole thing and make it a bit smaller. So you can really do a lot of tweaking with this. Maybe make that a bit thinner. Okay, so you can come in and make any sort of adjustments that you want to make to that. All right, so now let's say we want to go ahead and scale this up. So I'm going to make sure that I center the pivot first. Okay. All right, and let's go ahead and just scale this appropriately. So we'll go to got the bottom of the couch and the floor here. So make sure that we go in and scale this correctly. Okay, and it can penetrate a little bit. And so let's say that that is the kind of the size that we want it. Okay, if we take a look at this in our perspective, we can see that it kind of looks backwards to what we think it should look like. So if we now select this, you can see that there's an option for flip normals. So I'll go ahead and flip those around. All right, now let's go ahead and drop this kind of into position here. So I'm going to go ahead and from the top view, drag this over into one of the corners here. So something like that. Now if we want to retain the flexibility to be able to change the shape of this and have it affect all the other legs, what we can do is just shift drag this across and choose instance or reference here. And what that will do is I can now select either one of these, go into line, vertex, and get both of these in the picture here. You can see that I can now change this, and it changes it on all of them. So if you want to retain that flexibility, if you know that maybe something's going to change, you might want to take advantage of that. Okay, so I'll go ahead now and just duplicate these around. Maybe put one back here. If you'd like to create multiple copies at once, you can drag this across, and instead of creating one copy, we can create 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 copies. Okay, you might have to modify that last one just a little bit depending on your size there. Go ahead and pull that one forward, create a single copy, and then drag this across, and maybe we want to do 1, 2, 3 copies. So wherever you want those legs to be, go go ahead and drop one in. Maybe move that over. Maybe this one can be moved over a little bit. All right. And so let's go ahead and look in our perspective. You can see that there are our legs. So let's say we want to shrink down the base of that. So I'm going to go ahead and select this guy, select the line and the vertex. Go ahead and zoom extents on there. Okay, and I'll go ahead and grab these and let's move them over a bit. Shrink down the size of our gizmo there just by hitting minus. And go ahead and shrink that down a little bit. Okay, and you can see if you look on all those other ones, it's shrinking down as well. Okay, so you can come in and do any sort of shaping that you want to on there. Maybe pull that one in a bit. A little shape down there. So, kind of nice to have that flexibility to come in and change things after you've already placed them, and have it kind of update across the entire model. Okay, so that's one way that you can go in and add legs, and doing it this way gives you some flexibility as far as the shape, making the shape and such. But you could also use a cylinder or any number of other techniques. Okay, so the next lesson we're going to start on the coffee table. So we're going to use something called a lattice, but it's maybe not what you're quite thinking of if you've used other software